Hi everyone, Nick Skillicorn from Improvides here. We've got another amazing interview lined up for you. We've got Dr Simone Ritter from Radboud University Nijmegen. Did I say that right?
Yeah, correct.
And she is one of the leading figures in the Netherlands around creativity research from a very scientific perspective. So we're going to have a chat today about the sort of studies which you've done into how creativity works, how it can be enhanced, and what people at home can do to enhance their own ability to generate ideas. So why don't you just give us a quick rundown on the sort of work that you do in the field of creativity?
Well, I'm doing research on understanding and enhancing creative thinking. So one part is on brain research, so how does the creative brain work? And the other part is on behavioral studies, and these are mainly focused on enhancing creative thinking. And by creative thinking, I mean mainly creative problem solving. So my research is not that much focused into music or painting or writing, but problem solving in the broadest sense.
And how does one approach a subject like that? Because what a lot of people at home probably struggle with is the idea of how do you research or measure or be scientific about something like creativity, which, as you said, a lot of people think is about music or painting or something a bit more abstract.
Well, I'm trained as an experimental psychologist. That means my work mainly uses experimental designs to study how creativity works and how we can enhance it. So what we often do is that we have two groups of people. We call them participants. And one group has, for example, a creativity training, or like we did in some studies, we expose them to unexpected experiences, or we involved unconscious processes, and we have a control condition where people, for example, get no training or the corresponding normal event, if it's about unexpected experiences, or instead of unconscious processes, conscious thought. And then we compare creative performance between groups. So we have a group of individuals in one condition, a group of individuals in the other condition, and their creative performance is measured after the so-called manipulation, if we talk in scientific terms.
Yeah.
And creativity itself, we, for example, measure with the alternative uses task.
How does that work? What's an alternative uses task?
Now, the standard alternative uses task uses objects such as a brick or a newspaper, and then people are asked to generate ideas what you can do with a brick or what you can do with a newspaper. I also use somewhat more societal relevant problems in my research. For example, how can we make the waiting time at the cash desk more pleasant, just to give an impression of a more societal problem. And well, the coding of these ideas is based on a fluency measure. That means you count the number of ideas somebody generates.
Okay.
Then we measure the flexibility. We have a predefined list of categories. And then we have a look in which categories can the ideas be assigned to. And this gives an indication of how flexible someone can think. For example, if we use the brick task, you could ask, what can you do with a brick? Well, you can build a house, you can build a bridge, you can build a tower.
All building something.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all about building. So the category would be building. So this person would score really low on cognitive flexibility. But if you would use a brick for other things as well, you would get a higher score on cognitive flexibility. And we think that this is an important creative thinking style, because you don't get stuck in one way of thinking, but you switch between concepts. And this often helps you to become more creative. So that's the second measure. And of course, we measure the creativity of the ideas that are generated. And that's a more subjective measure, but we use several raters and to get a good impression of whether this is a good judgment. We use indirect reliability. also a scientific term. Yeah, well, just to make sure that it's all reliable. But you can also count how often an idea is mentioned within a pool.
So between the number of participants, if everyone says the same idea, then it's not that original.
Exactly, yeah.
But if only one or two people say
Yeah.
it, then it's quite original.
Yeah. So these are ways to measure creativity scientifically. And for these 4 measures, the alternative users task is a really nice task to use. But there are also standardized measures like the remote associate test, which is a more convergent creativity measure. Creative insight can be measured by insight tasks. So there are a couple of dependent variables how creativity can be measured.
Wow. So it's the good news is that there's actually a group of scientists who are taking a new sort of view on how you can approach creativity, how you can study it, and therefore get a bit more rigor behind the findings of how it could necessarily be improved, if that's possible.
Yes.
Rather than a lot of things we've seen previously where someone claims they found the answer, but there's no actual evidence behind it.
Yeah, we are really looking for the evidence. And my passion is to study creativity in a scientific way, but also to translate the findings to society, to business settings, governmental institutions who need innovative solutions. So, my work is partly scientific, partly applied. That's what I like about it, and that's also, I think, really important when you do research on creativity. It should not stay into the university building, but it should also be brought outside. And I think a lot of companies and institutions can benefit from the knowledge we gain here at the university.
So what sort of results have we been seeing from these sorts of studies? Like, what sort of studies have you been involved with, and what have they shown about creative performance and how that can be affected by different situations?
Well, we've done a quite big research line on unexpected experiences. There's this research which shows that there's a correlation between living abroad and creativity. But if you find a correlation, you don't know what's the causal relationship.
Yeah.
So are people who are creative more likely to go abroad? Or does being abroad make you creative, which would be really interesting for people who want to be creative.
Yeah.
So I thought, let's study this scientifically. And it's quite tough, of course, to think about an experimental design where you can control for the experiences people have. And we came up with virtual reality technique. We have this here at Radboud University Nijmegen, and a virtual reality environment. Is a helmet you wear and a backpack. In the backpack you have a computer, and in the helmet you have 2 computer screens, which make it possible that you have a 3-dimensional world, and it really feels like you see it's computer programmed, but you are really immersed into this world. And what we did into this virtual world was that we manipulated the laws of physics. Because we can know for sure that
there's nothing more unexpected than the laws of physics not working.
Indeed. So we thought if this manipulation works, we know at least that something unexpected makes you more creative. And what we manipulated was gravity. We had a bottle, and this was knocked over by a little toy car, and as you would expect, it falls down in our normal world. But what we did was that it moved upwards. So this was the first manipulation. We manipulated time. For the experience of our participants, time moved faster because when they made a movement, the environment moved 1.5 as fast as their own experience. So time was violated, and we also played with perception. We had a suitcase standing on a table, and we asked people to approach this table and the suitcase, and what we let people experience was that the suitcase got smaller when
they got closer.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And in the control condition, everything just happened like gravity would predict and like the laws of physics would predict. And we compared performance on a creativity task between these two conditions. And what we found was that the unexpected events indeed enhanced people's creativity. So we were really excited about that. Because we found a way to enhance creative thinking. And of course, you might wonder, can I book this virtual reality lab?
Yes.
Well, it's for scientific purposes, but we went one step further, and we translated these findings to practical applications. You want me to?
Oh, by all means. I mean, not everyone at home has a VR headset. Yeah, there's a couple coming in the next couple of years, but what about if you just want to get a little boost to your creativity now or today? Is there any other studies that you could try or tell us about?
Yeah, well, what we did was we used bread with chocolate chips. Chocolate chips is a popular breakfast in the Netherlands, so people put bread and butter and chocolate chips.
Like a Cocoa Pop sandwich.
Yeah, that's a nice description of it. And what we did was that we manipulated the steps, how people perform the action of preparing this bread with chocolate chips. So we asked them to put chocolate chips on a plate and then put the bread with the butter side on the chocolate chips. So another way of preparing this.
So you still get the same sandwich at the end.
Exactly, you get the same sandwich, but you do it in an unexpected way. And this also enhanced people's creative thinking. And yeah, of course, you could wonder, what can I do if I don't have chocolate chips or if I don't like chocolate chips? But I had an interview with people in Switzerland, and they really liked the chocolate chips stuff, but they thought, okay, how can we tell people who live in Switzerland how they can get more creative in the morning? And they did it with jam. And this seemed to work as well. They did a small experiment. So I think it's about manipulating or violating the schemas you have. And this makes sense that this enhances creativity, because creativity is often difficult. It's difficult to come up with creative solutions because you are in your standard way of thinking, and if you get people out of this way of thinking, it enhances creative thinking. And this is what we kind of stimulate by these unexpected experiences.
So variety really is the spice of life.
Yeah.
New experiences will make you more creative on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
We had a quick sit down, and one of the things we talked about is the difficulty that people have in selecting good ideas. I know there's quite a bit of research out there about generating more ideas, but is there any sort of study out there or any findings we have about why it's so hard for people to actually come up with results from ideas?
As you already said, there is a lot of research on idea generation, and I've focused some more on idea selection lately, and there is a handful of studies, so that's not a lot. And all these studies demonstrate that people are not able to select creative ideas. They really go for the mainstream ideas, and that means you lose a lot of potential because you put a lot of effort in this generation session, brainstorming or not that. But then people go home with the wrong idea, and there is not a lot known about how this can be enhanced. But the idea we have by now is that this is related to uncertainty. Selecting a creative idea can evoke a lot of uncertainty because I have to defend my idea. You don't know if your boss will like it or if your co-workers will like it, and you never know if it will be implemented. So there is uncertainty, and we know that people try to avoid uncertainty. So it's much easier to go for a mainstream idea or for an idea which is an old idea with a new color. So this is what people often do. But it's very inefficient, because why would you have a brainstorm if you select an idea which you would have also had if you've asked a random person on the street. So this is a lot of improvement can be gained if we know more about idea selection.
So that's one of your upcoming sort of themes in research, is it?
Yeah, I have a big research grant which I will mainly spend on idea selection to get more insights in how people can select creative ideas.
So when I come and interview again in 2 years' time, then we'll have another study we can talk about.
Hopefully. I have more than one.
Excellent. So the last thing I wanted to touch on then is around what you found about actually enhancing creativity. We learned that unexpected experiences and variety can give you a nice short-term boost. Are there any other things that people can do as far as maybe understanding more about how creativity works? Is that likely to actually improve their performance as well?
Well, I think creativity can be trained. I would not say that you can make an Einstein of everybody by training, but I think that there is a certain range and you can get to a higher level. And while there are several techniques on the short run, but definitely you can also kind of change a mindset people have. There are not a lot of studies which focus on the long-term effects of training. So I think there should be more work on that. But my impression is that it can be trained.
Excellent. Right. Dr. Ritter, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.